Hola, and welcome to Oye Cinema Club. My name is Marina, aka Dignified Couch Potato, and tonight we are going to be discussing Brokeback Mountain. I chose this movie because I feel like I always pick female dominant movies, and I wanted to give the male perspective a chance. I'm not alone. Not alone. I'm going to be discussing this movie this evening with Steve Dez and Jason Eccles. Super excited to dive into this, no pun intended. We are going to start off with our first impressions. Let's start with Jason.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is my second time seeing this film. I saw it originally when it came out in theaters, uh, and I was super excited to see it because Heath Ledger at that time was like my favorite working actor. I remember like right before this movie came out, um, talking to a buddy of mine, an actor buddy of mine. We were like, "Oh, who's the best actor of our generation?" And we thought about it. And it didn't take us very long before we both came to terms like, "Oh, it's Heath Ledger. It's easily Heath Ledger." And then this movie came out, and then the joke came out, and we all just everybody just knew it. Like clearly, this is the guy. But oddly enough, my second pick for best actor of my generation was always Jake Gyllenhaal. So it was like that's kind of cool that these two guys are in a movie. Well, not always Jake Gyllenhaal, but it became Jake Gyllenhaal. Maybe after this movie, I don't remember. But I always felt like these were the two best actors of their generation. They're both spectacular in this thing. There's a lot of hype and buzz around this movie when it came out. I believe it won a bunch of awards, Oscars and whatnot. I believe all four leads may have been nominated, if I'm not mistaken. The thing about this movie that I thought about this time was that I do remember Michelle Williams, Heath Ledger's wife, being very good in it. I remember Anne Hathaway being very good in it. But when I go back and watch it now, it's like, wow, like especially Anne Hathaway, like she's so good in this thing. You forget that they're all in their 20s. They're all like 25 when they make this movie or whatever. And they're playing like people like probably in their deep 40s by the end of this thing. And you don't really question it. You don't really question that they aren't, these people and they haven't been aged and, grizzled with time and experience. And they just kind of nail this thing to the wall, I think. I think it's a really, really good movie. Um, I was reading some stuff about it. A lot of people call it a masterpiece. I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but there's a lot of really beautiful things in it. Ang Lee is fantastic direction in this thing. Um, yeah, that's my. Oh, yeah, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about like favorite scenes and stuff like that as we go forward. But that was my first initial thought.
Awesome, awesome. Steve, what was your first impression?
My first impression, well, this was my third attempt on watching the actual film because the first week, while starting the movie, uh, we decided to move it another week, and then the week, and then the week after that, we were trying again, and it wasn't happening either. So I always stop the movie at very abrupt moments. Like the first time I stopped it, like is this like a rape scene right now? Then the second time,
Oh
I,
man.
I stopped it when they were like very like very passionate and already like very into each other. So I was just like, oh, I'm crying and stuff, and like and then I'm watching it for the third time, and I'm thinking, you know what? Like now I'm ready for this. It's all gonna be good, but it just so happens that at the same time, this whole thing with Dick coming out, and now I'm just like, yeah, a lot of things are going through my mind. But regardless, the acting of this movie was absolutely amazing. This was actually a movie that when it came out in theaters, I was working in the movie theater. But at the time, I was so young. Like I'm talking, this movie is very old because I'm older now. Like now, I feel like the progression of the movie. I'm feeling it in my own life now. It's crazy. But I was working in the movie theater when I was like 19 years old, and this movie came out. And at the time, I was like, I'm not gonna see this this gay ass movie. That's how I reacted at the time. Because again, that was my mindset at the time. Now, as an older person, that I can look at this more objectively, I'm like, wow, this movie is actually very powerful. If you can get past the beginning scenes, if they're uncomfortable for some people, you can find like so much life to this movie. Like at the time when I was like working at the movie theater, I had to work and like sweep a couple theaters and go from time to time. And I would see scenes and they're just two cowboys in a mountain doing gay stuff together. So I never gave it a chance. But now, like actually watching it, I was like, oh, wow, like this movie is incredible. And what surprised me even more were the cameos. Like that's something that I was just like, I wasn't expecting Anna Faris to be in this movie. I wasn't expecting the dude from Stranger Things that I don't know his name. And yeah, I thought it was a great film. So that's my first impression.
Right on.
Awesome. Okay, I'll jump into mine. This was my second time ever watching this movie. But halfway through, I realized that I never finished it the first time. So it was
Whoa.
very interesting watching this, thinking that it was something else. So like I didn't watch it when it first came out because I grew up really strict. So I definitely wasn't allowed to watch a movie that was like controversial and speaking about men lying with men in the religion I was growing up in. So I didn't watch it until maybe like 10 years ago. Like it was on TV or something. But I stopped at the point the first time where Jake Gyllenhaal went to Mexico. So I don't know why I thought the movie was over and I might have changed the channel. So I thought like he rejected him and then he went to Mexico and got AIDS or something. So this whole time I didn't realize the movie proceeded after that and there was like so much more to the story. And so it was just almost like watching it for the first time. And it's definitely true. I think like growing up, being a teen when this came out, there was such a premise that it was just like very stereotypically gay and like it just like when you were young and immature you were like everyone you were either joking about it. I don't think any of my friends went to go see it. I probably never would even thought to watch it until it came on that cable of like few years ago. But so it was kind of cool to be able to get like a fresh perspective that I wasn't even thinking was fresh. And I don't even think I noticed the actors before. I think I didn't even realize Anne Hathaway was his wife the first time. I don't even think I knew who my doppelganger, Michelle Williams, who I say looks like that other actress. I didn't notice that was her. I didn't have any attachment. And then the girl who plays the daughter, I forget her name. She's also someone that's like more popular now. And so yeah, it was pretty cool, like just having a more mature, I guess, lens on this and actually taking an entire story. I think it's also like, being in a place where I have a child now, like understanding what he was going through mentally when it comes to having kids and just wanting, choosing happiness or choosing to be a good example for your children, just like so many different things. It was kind of cool to like have this lens as while watching it this time. But yeah, so that was my first impression. A question I have following up, I know Jason had seen it before and everything, but even I guess taking it back to that moment, what did you assume the movie was going to be about?
Mm.
And how do you feel corrected by how much more deeper it is or how much more like how many more levels and layers it had to it?
Well, I go first because I'm the only one that never seen this movie before. And I thought, again, based on the title, Brokeback Mountain, was like, wow, gay people have come a long way that they're going to allow to have a film that's just going to be straight mountain cowboy and just gay stuff. I just thought that was the movie was going to be essentially like a soft core, almost porno of just two guys just going at it. But the fact that they were highlighting. Like these people had created separate lives, all this stuff, the whole growing up thing. You at you see the children literally go grow very big. Definitely shout out to the makeup department because they shine. They made everybody look so much more older than what it was. The only part that I didn't buy was the wig that Anne Hathaway had. That's the only part that I was like, this looked very fake to me. But besides that, everything in the makeup was amazing. But yeah, and I wasn't expecting the film to have so much growth and be about that. But again, that's also my bias of going like, oh, the title says that. It's two cowboys, two people hugging each other. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I feel like that was the marketing on their part too, and it was a little ahead of its time when you think about it, because technically when the movie came out, it still wasn't like all that accepted. I don't even think gay marriage was legal yet. Um,
Yeah, certain places.
um, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. I thought it was probably like way more sexual than it was once I saw it. Like actually there's more like yeah, you're learning about people's lives, people's struggles, the violence that comes with being openly gay and have like the reason why a lot of people were closeted, like especially like we know like race is an issue, but just like sexuality in some of these same small towns, like it definitely highlighted like how you just felt like you had to go with the flow or you wouldn't be accepted by family and friends.
And shout out also, shout out to them. Like shout out to both Heath Ledger, rest in peace, and Jake Gyllenhaal, because that was also another reason why this movie even came out because they killed it. Because imagine they would have put here, I don't know, uh, Terry Crews and Ice Cube. This this would have flown. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, good. I mean, and they were big names at the time, right? They've both been around for a while.
Yep.
I know Jake was like almost like a child act, like at least a
No,
teen.
for sure. Like that was like Heath Ledger's like breakout time. Because
Okay,
I remember just like Jason said, like this came out and then boom, Batman came out.
okay, got it. Cool. What about you, Jason? Any like I know it was a long time ago, but any
Um,
options?
so it was a long time ago. I think I remember having some trepidation about watching the movie before. I know I was going to watch it because it was just, Ang Lee was directing and these two were in it, and that was enough for me. Like I didn't think it was going to be a bad movie, or I thought it was going to be good because Heath Ledger, his script selection at that time was incredible. I remember uh, the first movie that I mean, I liked him in like A Knight's Tale and all that kind of stuff. But then when I saw him in a film called The Lords of Dogtown, which probably came out like, I don't know, before this one, a little bit before this one, I was like, oh snap, this dude's a really good actor. He's like a for real actor. He's not messing around. And so after I saw that, I was like, he's not going to pick very many dumb movies from here on out, if any. It's just he was too good and too polished and too sharp. So I was actually kind of excited about seeing this one. I was like I said, the trepidation came so like, man, I hope it's not like gratuitous sex scenes, or I hope it's like doesn't it's not something that is like gonna, just like I said, be gratuitous and sort of wear me out. And like, I don't know if I, want to deal with all that. But it wasn't that bad. It was fine, whatever. It told the story. Brave of the two actors, at this kind of point in their career to do a role like this. It could have went left and went the wrong way. I think even in 2005 or six, whenever this came out, it still could have went, left field for them. But they both killed it. So, and their supporting cast killed it, and the script was very good. I know the script came from a short story that was written, I think, for the New York Times or the New Yorker. There's a short story that Larry McMurtry, I think, had wrote, and then I think maybe he helped write the screenplay for this, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it had some pedigree to it already, and so that was kind of hyping it, and it had the Hollywood machine behind it. So I was ready to give it a chance, but like I said, with a bit of trepidation behind it.
Yeah, that's really mature of you even then. Like, like I just feel like people it was a little bit of a stigma to go watch it. Like
Oh,
so
without a doubt. Oh, I'm glad you did say that. Also, I was like a theater student at that time, so I was like becoming like very open minded about everything, and also I just like, well, let me see what my peers are, that kind of thing. I was trying to still educate myself. I do remember having a little bit of fear, like, man, I'm going to go see this movie all by myself, and I might get made fun of by somebody. I don't know, like, like I'm sitting here by myself, like, who else is in here? You know what I mean? Like,
police the police could be outside. Got him. We
got
got him.
got him there, whoop his ass. Like, yeah. I mean, a little bit, just a little bit, but not that much. I was already like, whatever.
You're like,
And
I
this
went Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I was
You know,
good.
that was good.
and in this season, again, I worked at a movie theater, so I remember it very clearly. Like this is a season where like Harry Potter movies are coming out, Twilight movies are coming out, Super 8, the Super 8 film came out. Like all these movies are coming out bang, 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 like a lot of really good movies. So like those movies, of course, were like getting filled in the theaters, but when it came to these type of movies, at least in my theater, I will only see certain old people, a couple mixed crowds, but it was never a full theater watching this.
Oh, interesting. I guess we can dive in later how well it did. But um yeah. Yeah, well that's cool. That's just something I thought about. Oh, this is interesting. Like, I was curious if it was different once you guys, had watched it. But cool. So I feel like there's so many sidebars we can have about this, but I just want to keep a couple of our classic combos, like favorite character. What would you guys say your favorite character?
Well, Heath Ledger impressed me a lot before, but he impressed me even more this time, to be honest with you. And Jake Gyllenhaal, like I said, he's very good too. But really, it's the same character I think that impressed me the first time I saw this movie. It's Anne Hathaway. She's a standout for me. Um, this is like Anne Hathaway shortly after Princess Bride. Like I didn't even know she could do this when I saw this movie, and I thought she was like kind of miscast. Like, she's kind of like too pretty and already a movie star kind of thing, and Disney little star Princess Bride. And then she did this thing, and I'm like, oh wait, she's awesome. Like when I watch it now, she seems like like I know she's like a 40-something-year-old woman now, but in this movie, she seems like how she would have played it at 40-something. You know what I mean? It's like she's like really tapped in. She's incredible.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those people where I am really glad she didn't get typecasted because you definitely kind of imprinted Princess Princess
Uh-huh.
Diaries. Like I was just like, yeah, like it. But every time she does something serious, it's crazy how good she does. And first time I watched this, I don't know why it didn't register to me that was her. Uh, but yeah, she did a good job. Um, Steve, what about you?
Um, I honestly, I don't, I want to preface this. I don't know if this is slightly biased because I think sometimes when people pass away, you appreciate their work a little bit extra.
Mm,
But objectively, like just revising the movie in my head, like I had to give it to Heath Ledger just because of all the range of emotions that his character was put through. I'm not gonna lie, Jake Gyllenhaal also like did an amazing job, especially towards like I think towards like the ending of the film. Like the character had a little bit more range. In the beginning, it felt like it was more him, and but throughout the whole movie, I think Heath Ledger just absolutely destroyed.
yeah, he did a great job. Like, and like you said, it's because he was going through so much. Like Jake did a great job too, but like he always knew. Like, I just want to live in a house with you and have some sheep and stuff and love each other. It was just very consistent. He had a couple moments when he broke down because like he was just frustrated that the person he loved just couldn't fully love him back. But yes, the ups and downs of Heath were brilliant. I honestly don't know who mine is. I really don't because I would have said Heath, but I don't know, maybe it's just getting older. I also tuned into the wives a lot more this time. I was just like, "Oh, wow, they're kind of acting their butts off." I think the first time I watched this, I was like, "These dumb broads, you couldn't tell your man was gay." But now just seeing the process, I definitely felt their moods a lot more and just seeing what they were going through, like, just like his Jake Gyllenhaal's wife, she just seeing her making a choice in her head, um no, not Jake, sorry, Heath's wife, like, just seeing her make a choice in her head whether or not she's gonna stay in this relationship because of the kids. Like, you could just see what she was going through, and eventually and just seeing her break and then just seeing her leave, and then just seeing her still be frustrated after she's moved on. Like, it's just, like, I paid a lot more attention to it this time, and same thing with, Anne Hathaway, like, she was passive aggressive, but I could feel it now that it was a survival mechanism, like, even in the end. So yeah, I'm torn, man. I can't pick one. Sorry, guys. Am I kicked out of cinema club?
Nope, fair enough. I mean, they make it very difficult. The four top performers in this movie, the four leads, I guess you call them. I mean, they really knock this thing out of the park. Michelle Williams gives looks in moments that are
Yeah.
just heartbreaking, where she like has to come to this realization that she doesn't know what to do, but she just found out her husband is gay, and like her heart is breaking, right? And you see it. There's a couple of those scenes where she doesn't say anything. You just see it on her face. You see everything. It's like,
Mhm.
whoa, she's killing this thing right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. Yeah,
Just
there's some really good work in here.
just to put it on paper, I'm going with Jake's mom. Boom. She was
She was terrific too. I mean, that's a great selection. Like, 'cause I didn't notice any of that stuff the first time I watched the movie, but like this time around, it's like, oh man, like the mom knew. Like
Yeah,
you could tell, like the mom knew, and she goes, "Go up to the room," and she tell him you could take something or whatever.
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
get to that part, so I never even, like I didn't realize I didn't finish the movie. So there were so many tears this time seeing, like, how his parents felt about him. I didn't know. I thought he may have passed away from, like, getting some type of sexually transmitted disease, but the fact that he and then I kinda asked, "Do you guys feel like he was killed?"
Yes,
Or
100%,
okay. So the
100%. And I think maybe Heath Ledger kind of knows it because Anne Hathaway sort of tells the story like she's trying to save face for the family. Because she said, like, she talks about how the wheel came off and smacked him in the face, and it's like that didn't happen. That
mm,
didn't happen. That's not what happened. But also she's probably living in a small town where it's like, like that's the story, and you just better stick to it because these good old boys took him out to the creek and they busted him up.
mm, and you gotta raise your kids in that same town too.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really sad, like, for that to kind of be foreshadowed because that was the whole reason why he never wanted to come out is because someone had gotten murdered when he was a kid, for being open and for it to
Yep.
turn around and happen to his person. Yeah, that was a whole wave of emotions that I didn't go through. I don't know why I thought the movie was 45 minutes. I don't know, maybe it was late at night or something, but for some reason, when he went to Mexico, I stopped watching it.
Mm.
Like, the first time he went there, I thought it was over. I don't know, it was very weird.
That's what happens when you watch pirated movies.
Late
That's
at
it.
night.
He went to
Maybe
Mexico, never came back.
I was
They put
sneaking.
they put the fade out in the Mexico part. Yeah.
They do. They tricked me. I was like, "Okay, what else is on?"
That's hilarious.
But yeah, the mom, yeah, she moved me in the end. What about favorite scene?
Oh, this is the one I've been waiting on.
Oh, can I go first?
You may.
Sure.
Okay. Before anybody says it, I don't think anybody will say it, but I gotta mention the scene because I just loved it. I love how stupid it was. I love how serious it was. But it was the scene. Uh, I'm gonna mention one scene and then an honorable mention. So the scene that they basically like the family's there and Jake Gyllenhaal's there. He's older, not super old, but getting there. and they're fighting about the TV, about the kid. Hey, you need to eat and stuff, and then the dad is just like just TV and just being very childish. I'm like, oh my god, I love that scene. Like, I love that scene.
I don't know why I thought it was gonna escalate more. Like, he was gonna be like, "Well, that's why you're gay," or something. I don't know why I thought the grandpa was going to like come at him crazy. But that was pretty funny.
I don't know. I don't know. I get that too because every time I see like a dinner scene now, my brain just immediately goes to Talladega Nights. So I think there's gonna be like a witty banter amongst each other or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it
But
did have the Talladega Night vibes to it for sure.
yeah, because of the southern whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
The honorable mention is when they escape for the first time. That like it's like so many things are happening. Like he's happy to see him finally again. They fucking push each other into an alley and start kissing and stuff like that. The wife sees it for the first time and goes like, "Yo, what did I just say?" And then they leave. Like, well, he comes back into the house, he grabs the stuff, leaves with him, and then the first thing they do is they get naked, balls out, and jump into the creek. Like,
Like they're still bros at the end of the day.
I'm like, wow, like this dude is like he created a life over here. Whereas he's living like society norms, and over here he's like, I'm free.
I know it's so much intensity, and I think like this time around because I already had the initial shock of the intensity, and I think it's definitely coming from a place where both actors are straight, so that's just you have to get over that first because it's like wow, like they're really acting this out. So I was able to embrace like what the moods were a little bit more this time because I think the first time I watched it, it was just like shock, like oh god, I never thought I would see Jake Gyllenhaal make out with the guy, like or like it's so once like that was a cool thing about this time around is I did get to feel that. But
And I one more honorable mention, just
oh,
one more. It's just two quick scenes, so it's like, and it's mainly the Jake Gyllenhaal part. He's coming and he's like singing "Yeehaw!" like having a great time, and then fast forward, like there's a scene there, but fast forward when he's leaving and he's just so brokenhearted and like he's just like crying and devastated. Like that was so you can feel it through the screen.
yeah, yeah. He definitely portrayed being absolutely in love with someone that's not available very well.
Yeah.
Um, Jason, what about you?
Wow, yeah, those are all very powerful scenes, man. But well, there's a few that kind of stand out to me. But like Steve, my favorite is the fight scene, the dinner fight scene with Dad and him turning the TV off, and then
I knew
finally,
you were gonna say it. That's why I wanted to say it first.
it's such a good
Oh,
scene.
random. That's both of your guys' scene.
Yeah. It's a terrific scene on all accounts. Like everybody in that scene plays their part so well. And for me, it's just it's also it tells a lot about who he is as a person. It gives the character so many more layers and textures other than like it could have just been a trope about him just being gay or whatever. And it's like no, he's also has to like stand up for himself and his family, even to like this dad who's trying to like push him around, who might think he's gay. I don't know, but either way, he's trying to be a pushover. But what makes that scene for me is the look that Anne Hathaway has when her husband stands up to her father, because it like that smile said so much. It's like, yeah, I saw the way you were like this with mom, and you might have like talked down to me even when I was living with you, but now I have a husband that's standing up to you, and I can't love it more. You know what I mean? Like it was all in her look, and then she straightens up so like her dad can't see her. Laughing the fact that he got checked, he got put in his place. I love it so much. A scene that I think I liked so much this time because I've really listened to Randy Quaid give them their instructions about what their job was. I really like locked into it this time. And then I was wondering, like, well, how do you herd sheep? Like, okay, he's got a couple of guns for him. He's got, a couple of dogs. Like he's giving them all this stuff. I'm like, but they know how to herd sheep. I'm like, how does that work? And then it's like, I'm so glad that Ang Lee took the time to show us them doing the job because I've never seen anybody herd sheep before. I thought that was incredible. Like it's like, oh, is that how you herd sheep? Like for however far they had to herd them, like miles they had to herd these sheep, right? It's like, man, like what a job. And you're gonna lose sheep along the way. And you got like there's coyotes and wolves like hanging around. And yeah, it's just I thought that was cool and it's shot so beautifully. And these actors are actually on horses herding sheep. And I'm like, this had to be like just arranged for a movie. Like it's incredible. For something so simple. Yeah, so actually those are like a couple of my favorite scenes. And then only because you guys mentioned it, like when Ennis collapses after their first encounter, and he's like, kind of like, oh no, like I can't believe this just happened. Like I fell in love with this guy or whatever, and or I'm facing my own like coming out of the closet, or I'm facing my own identity finally, or whatever that moment was. I'd never really picked up on that before, and that was kind of like, yeah, that gave me some that kind of stands out to me.
Yeah. Those are all good too. Speaking of the sheep one, there was a funny scene when the sheeps got mixed up with another herd.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that gave me so much anxiety. I was just like, how are they gonna get them all separated? I'm glad they
they did.
um let me think. My favorite scene. Um I think I was super attached to like the highs and lows of Heath Ledger's character. So like any like intense interaction he had with his wife kind of did it for me. Um like when she had to go to work and he's like, "Who's gonna feed the kids?" Like, "You are." Just like he was just really so angry with everything in life because he couldn't live the life he wanted to. And it's just like every time he had like these moments that shouldn't have been that intense with his wife, it was always like a huge argument. Like and just seeing their whole relationship evolve and have its highs and have its lows, like it just really broke my heart when when they were having intercourse, he and his wife, and she was just like, "Maybe we should use some protection." And he was like, "Well, if you don't want to have my kids, then I'll be happy to leave you alone." I'm like, "Dang, this is so freaking sad." Like, oh, like how many people are dealing with like this weird gravity, like, and then, and I hope as things have become more accepting, there's less and less scenarios like this where people are trapped at least because of sexual preferences. Like, people have weird dynamics all the time. But yeah, just anything that they did together was just very I was glued to the TV. Like,
Yeah, they had some great moments, man. I mean, just two really fine actors as well. And yeah, that scene's absolutely heartbreaking. Like you can feel it on like both sides of the bed, especially because it's like they're having this whole conversation without using all the words, without using all the feelings and all the truths behind it. And it's like you guys are like tearing each other apart, and you know, can't be. There's an elephant in the room, and she knows he's not being honest, and he knows he's not being honest. It's nasty work, man.
man, when she said that, another good intense scene from them, the fishing box
Oh,
where
great, terrific. Just man, just the way to tell a story like that. Oh,
you didn't even fish for real to eat. Like y'all really was out there not fishing at all.
but I
You
love
know?
how she says like it's heartbreaking either way, because like one you're out there and you're doing whatever, but then like I asked you to bring me and the girls back some fish, and when I asked you about it, you said yeah you ate up these fish or whatever, like you didn't even think about us, you didn't consider your family, man. And it's like, man, this is heartbreaking, this is awful.
Yeah, it was a tough spot because like he was not with Jake because he wanted to live a traditional life, but then he wasn't even like providing financially, emotionally, or anything for his family. Like, what a weird space. Like, a part of me empathizes, and a part of mine's like, you're kind of a prick. Like, it's like,
Yo,
damn.
yo, yo, the scene when she just goes like, fuck it, and just leaves, right? and then the girls are just there looking, and he goes like, do you girls need a push or something?" Like, I was like, yo, this dude doesn't value himself for a dime, bro.
Like, doesn't do a thing. Like, what? Like, just,
I just
yeah.
felt like that was a super dad thing to do.
You need a push.
Those are his kids, because yeah, I wasn't keeping up too much with like the age progression. I thought like his kids were still babies, and so I thought those were like strangers. But the fact that those are his children makes that even funnier. Like, yeah. Well,
Speaking of his
um,
children, I didn't realize until this time around that that was Kate Mara and as his daughter. I was like, I
that
kept looking at her, like, where do I know her from? Like, she is. I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. Who is that? Like, I know that she's a star now. Who is? It's a young Kate Mara. I can't believe she played Heath Ledger's daughter in a thing. That makes me feel
yeah,
crazy.
that was the name I was trying to figure out earlier, Kate Mara, because I just recently watched, like you said, she's been in a lot, but I just recently watched that Class of '09. It's like a show talking about like AI taking over the FBI.
Hmm.
Like, very interesting. So I just fresh finished that maybe a couple months ago. But yeah, first time I watched this, zero idea. Same thing. Speaking of, you guys can add any more because we've talked about a few like cameos. And correct me if I butcher her last name, Linda Cardellini.
Hmm.
Um, like she's somebody that I guess I didn't realize. I don't even know if she wasn't like that as famous back then or not. Like I don't remember, but she recently has been doing Dead to Me, and like she's been in a lot. Just
Okay.
in general, I think she's like Velma and Scooby Doo as well, and just like a lot of stuff. Avengers, like she's done a lot. But just yeah, it's just crazy how many little people, like little, how many people were a part of this. Like,
Yeah,
and I
man.
just didn't
Yeah,
know.
man.
And then
Um, yeah, there's a ton of like Randy Quaid pops up in this thing, and he's terrific. I had never quite seen him like that before.
which one? Who was he playing?
He was the boss that in the very beginning.
Oh yes, yes, yes. And then Linda was playing the that was like, if I can say anything, like that role was so random. Like his girlfriend after his wife. I
Yeah,
was kind of pissed. I was like, you stop, leave these girls alone.
really though, really
Just
though. He was a messed up guy, man. He was a loner, and he's messing with these women, and he's a lonely guy, and he's just kind of almost doing it performative, but it's not really what he wants. It's a weird thing, man. But also, yeah, it is leave these women alone, but it kind of shows how these guys can get involved with women. Like in all these situations, the women sort of took the charge, didn't they? Like kind of pursuing these men. They didn't really pursue the women. The women were just like hyper, like aggressive in pursuing them, and they just like, all right, I'll go along. I guess this is the way it goes.
and that's so scary. We tell young women to just put yourself out there. If I have a daughter, I'm like, no, he
Do
doesn't
not put
hit on
yourself out
you.
there.
Doesn't hit on you. Just leave it alone. No, I'm just kidding. Because some people are shy. But that's so scary to think that like someone may not be shy. They just may not be attracted to you, but they feel like they have to. So if you're showing interest and you're taking the lead, then cool, we'll go with it. But like I said, I feel like that's becoming less and less as people can be more and more open, at least in major cities. I know smaller towns still have it rough. But there's
Speaking of
more
which, most of this happens in Wyoming, right? And so while I'm watching this, I'm thinking about the Laramie Project. If you guys are familiar with that whole thing,
big.
um, yeah, the Laramie Project, true story. There's also a movie, I think, a book, a play. Laramie Project. There's the Laramie, Wyoming, and a young gay man. I think it was like the 80s or 90s. He was beat to death there in the town, and it was like made national headlines or whatever. And it kind of really opened up the conversation about like gay people's rights and like stop bullying people, kind of all that conversation kind of came to the forefront about like us having to face our identity as a country, as it concerns these things. um Yeah, so all this taking place in Wyoming. I mean, probably for that reason is my guess. But yeah, like and they're in this small town, and if you're in Wyoming, you don't have to deal with that many people. There's not that many people in Wyoming. There never has been. It's like the population there is 100,000 today, right? So you know, everybody in this thing, I feel like is kind of starving for affection. It seems like, and you know, there's just not that many people around to be affectionate with,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah.
especially if you're gay.
um,
And the dangers of being gay, because remember early in the movie, Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to flirt with that guy at the bar, and then the guy walks away, and he kind of sees him, kind of like telling the other guys at the bar. So he makes it a point to like get out of there real fast. Like he's being super hyper aware of like his survival instincts are kicking in. They eventually just got him though.
yeah, man. I'm wondering if there was some inspiration to this from that, because 20 years later, for it. But yeah, I feel like we've talked about a lot. Anything else you guys that stood out, or to someone at home who's watching this video, that you wanted to discuss?
Uh, did you guys expect? I guess this is your second time watching, except Marina watched the Mexican version. And did you guys expect, like, A, that someone was going to, spoiler alert, die? B, the person that did die? And C, how it ended?
So, first time, no. And then when I continued to watch the movie and realized that he did not die, I was also tricked again. Because I was like, oh, so he didn't die in Mexico. Everybody's cool. So it hit me like a truck that he actually did die. I'm like, what are the odds that like something in my subconscious knew that he was going to die, in the sense that like I thought he died in Mexico. And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh, the movie keeps going. And so I was like, oh, that's so great. Maybe they live happily ever after. Clown face. No, he actually did die. So yeah, I guess no, but something in the back of my mind felt like they couldn't have a happy ending.
Mm.
And then yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, yeah, probably yeah. I felt like it would be Jake's character because he was like the most sad.
Mm.
I thought it was maybe like, like I said, sexually transmitted disease, or maybe like suicide, because it couldn't have it, the person he wanted and stuff. But yeah, I don't think I thought it was gonna be a hate crime for sure.
It did. The script does start to go down that direction where it makes you think like, this might be an HIV story, but it's so expertly written where it doesn't take that turn, you know. But it does put it on the table because that's a very real reality, right? Um, yeah, man. I thought, yeah, it just to me that just reminds me of how well this thing is like penned, how well it's crafted, because it does do a little bit of a break. If you're really paying attention, there is a bit of a rug pull, and they don't really show the death. We just know that it happens, and it's an interesting film convention for them to show the audience what she's saying without saying it, or what he's thinking without it being heard. Right? It's coming from one of those directions, or both, perhaps. I just thought that was an interesting way of doing it. Like they don't spend a whole scene doing it, which I really do like.
What about you, Steve?
Uh, I also was thinking I was going to go the HIV direction. And I thought Heath Ledger was going to die.
Mm. I'm glad it didn't go that way though. I'm sorry, airplane just flew over, or something, helicopter. Because like I don't like the stigma that like if you choose this life, you get the devil's disease. Like that was such a like a thing back in the day where they were saying that like HIV was a punishment for, having these sexual desires to be with someone of the same sex. And so like I am kind of glad I didn't. And I feel a little ignorant that I thought it was gonna be like that, but just like I don't know, we went to this dusty place in another country. I was just like, oh, okay, dang, that sucks. But I am glad that no, it's what kills is hate. The hate is worse than anything else. And so but yeah, so sad. Either way, no matter how you die, it's sad.
Sad, sad times.
But that would have been really like. And then another thing I wanted to note before we discuss anything you guys want or do final thoughts is it was kind of eerie too with him having passed in real life. It's always very interesting to me, like any movie. Um, Yeah, especially because like, his last role had such an impact on me. It was, like, one of the only movies I had, like, with my roommates and stuff. So, yeah, it was just very interesting that, like, it just almost felt, like, ghosty in a sense. Like, it was like yeah,
There
cool,
is something to that, to very dramatic performances or like just a performance like this. It does read as like a little haunting, doesn't it?
for sure. It was definitely,
Also
um
because he's so vulnerable in it.
yeah. Oh, rest in peace.
Rest in peace,
Alright,
Heath.
and you have something else?
No, no, no. I was pointing at.
Oh, heaven. Or whatever's up there. Um, alright. Okay, well, you guys wanna jump into our final thoughts?
Sure thing, sure thing.
Alright, let's start with Jason.
All right, final thoughts. This is a good movie. A lot of people do consider it a masterpiece. I do believe it's on the 1001 films you need to see before you die list. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm 90% sure it is. It's got to be. It's nominated for everything. So let's just say it is. Who would I recommend this thing to? I would recommend this thing to lovers, film buffs, fans of Heath Ledger, fans of Jake Gyllenhaal, Michelle Williams. Good acting, fans of good acting. If you want to see some really good acting, if you want to see some stellar filmmaking, watch this thing. I can't recommend it to everybody because I just know a lot of people aren't going to like the gay themes and the gay content in it. So I will be very mindful of who I would recommend it to. I'm not sure if I've ever even recommended this movie to anyone, but I can confidently say like there is a lot to like about this movie and there's a lot to like about this film. And whether you're gay or not, I think this thing kind of breaks down like the human condition and what it might be like for people who are or who have dealt with it, back in that time period. Because this does take place in the 1960s, to be sure. So we weren't as far along as like our public sentiment toward the gay community. All in all, good movie. Would I watch it again? Maybe in another maybe in another 18, 20 years, I could see myself like popping this thing back in. But it's a good watch, and I liked it a lot.
Nice, and that was a good call out. I didn't realize it was based in the '60s. That's crazy. I mean, and maybe it started there, right? So maybe it ends what,
Started
in
in
the
'63.
'80s? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I never that helps, like, some things too, like, definitely the fear that he
Yeah,
had.
a lot of stuff I didn't catch the first time either. The I've also heard on the thing, it was when they had the kids and they were at the 4th of July thing. There's like the 4th of July fireworks of 1966. So like
Mm,
just little stuff in the back. I'm like, oh, it's been 3 years since they met in '63, and then he mentions at the end of the movie that they met in '63. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind.
yeah. Alright. Steve.
Final thoughts. So keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it nice, keep it fresh. The movie is a great masterpiece. I think for sure, this movie is for a more slightly mature audience. And by mature, I don't necessarily mean age necessarily, but I just mean people that have a little bit of an open mindedness to it if they're not particular in the LGBTQ plus community. Because I could definitely see certain people, and there are many, that could have friction with this type of content. But in general, if you do appreciate film and cinema, it is quite a wonderful film, an even more wonderful story if you're into storytelling, because the way that this movie essentially goes through time as well is amazing. And that's something that's sometimes hard to pull through, especially going through so many years. Um, and yeah, man, it's one of those movies that even if you're not in the beginning, somewhere in the middle or towards the end, you're gonna be rooting for somebody. I was I was screaming at Jake Gyllenhaal, going like, "Man, come on, man! Like he did everything for you, Heath Ledger, and you're not. You, he drove. You know how far he drove? So many times. You gonna do him like that? Yo, that's crazy. You can't even give your daughters a push. Come on, bro. Uh, but yeah, just an amazing movie. I would definitely recommend it uh, to people, like I said, that are a little bit open minded. And yeah, people that want to also study acting. Do people do that still anymore? If they do, uh, definitely a great place where you can pull great scenes and maybe even monologues from.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Texas to Wyoming is what he was driving, or where was he driving to? Right?
Wow. Was it Texas to Wyoming? I think it might
Well,
have been.
at one point he was driving to El Paso, but that was also to cross the border to Mexico. Yeah.
To visit Heath, I think. Yeah. So great final thoughts. I actually took Jason's job this time around and looked up how much it grossed.
I
it
believe
says
in
it, it says it grossed over 178 million worldwide with a budget of 14 million.
Very
that.
impressive.
Pretty crazy considering it has such a stigma. I didn't realize that many people showed up and supported it. I thought it was one of those movies that got like it got support later for being like having such great actors and stuff. That's good to
I mean,
know.
how
This movie had great marketing behind it.
from when this movie got released to Heath Ledger's passing, how much time did it pass?
I think 3
Um,
years.
yeah, I would say something like 3 years.
I think he died in '08.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Um so yeah, because that could have a thing you go back. I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, 3 years is tough though for box office. Um so my final thoughts. Really glad I got to watch this again with a mature lens. Definitely a lot to take from it as an actor, as a person who just believes in love and just um who loves to support everyone. It's so cool that this movie came out in 2005 and had like main characters representing queer people. It was ahead of its time, and I'm glad it did well. I would recommend this, yeah, to people that if like even if someone's like, "Oh, I never watched that," like, I'm glad to introduce it. Like, I mean, like Steve had never watched it because, like, you might have been a little turned away back in the day. Like, just talking to people, like, it's actually a pretty good film. So I recommend it to people that, you know, were on the fence about it and like kind of highlight how much more you can learn from it than what it seems like it's about. Um, and I would probably rewatch it if it comes on TV, and actually finish it. Don't stop when he gets to Mexico. Keep going, guys. There's more to the story. But yeah, overall, powerful film. Um, and I'm glad the story is out there for people to watch.
Nice. Well done. Okay. Well, that concludes Brokeback Mountain. I guess I only have one more question, and that's Steve. What do you got for us next week? You're muted, bud.
Next week, I am so happy you asked me. and told me
Yeah.
that I was on mute. Um, so for next week, I also don't understand why you asked me because you know that you're making that face because you're next for Cinema
Oh,
Club.
am I? Am I next? Okay, cool. So after having visited Brokeback Mountain, I thought we would inject this thing with something that I don't think we've ever done on Cinema Club, and that's a sports movie. We're doing a sports movie, folks. It's something that I pulled from the 1001 list, and it's Bull Durham.
Is that my
So
husband? Is that my husband?
if your husband is Kevin Costner, then and Susan Sarandon, then yes.
Just Kevin. Oh yeah.
Well, this one stars them, and I guess we'll be talking about that next week after our viewing.
There you go. So for Marina, the couch potato, Jason Eccles, he likes bridges, and me, Steve the producer. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.